Smart.
I think if this is redirecting to YouTube. YouTube. All right.
Smart.
And we're live on YouTube. Just I love how Shay does the green screen, behind the.
Man, I want me one of those things. You just pull it up like a shade. That thing is so big and bulky, though.
Yeah, they are. You got to have the space for it for sure. A type of studio build-up.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody out there. Payal, hello world. What's up, YouTube? What's up, Facebook? What's up, Instagram? Because we're going to be showing these on the various platforms. I'm Rome Madison, the everyday superstar, and today we have a treat for you because we're in a tumultuous time. We're in turbulent times, and although the commentary can go on forever about how I'm feeling, how you're feeling, I want to give you some lift in your sails, some wind in your sails, some lift in your wings. And I invited one of my great friends in the speaking industry who we were boys, but we've been looking for ways to collaborate because he's such a dynamic speaker. He's such a rich content speaker in the things that he's going to be bringing. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to reach out and to tap his genius to pour into your lives through my audience, through my followers. He goes by the name of Sir Charles Carey. He is an author, speaker, two-time cancer survivor, and just a dynamic individual. And I asked him to come on and share some thoughts around how we can master our mindset in tumultuous times. And I think you will understand by his journey and the things that he's been able to accomplish and yet overcome in spite of the things that he's gone through, that you'll look at your situation and I'm a fundamentalist, Charles. If sometimes it's as simple as if they can do it, I can do it. And if we get enough of those stories, those compelling stories about people who overcame greater challenges than we did, started at a worse position than we have, and accomplished great things, that I think that it can really help someone out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Sir Charles Carey to the Superstar Academy. Sir Charles, thank you for joining us.
First and foremost, Rome, thank you so much. I'm listening to you open up and I'm like, I'm going to need an extra hot tea, extra water, some energy boost. I got to rise to the occasion. Man, I appreciate that, man. I tell you, it's, oh man, how do I start? One of the most exciting things I can say is this: to do what you and I do in times like these and to be successful, to stay relevant, it's a blessing, and it's just part of the journey. But we're not exceptions to the rule. And if we can encourage other people to sort of think like we do, because I know we're focusing on mindset, but if they could begin to think like we do, I think we could shed some of this heavy weight off our shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. As an introduction, I mean, there's so many superlatives and so many things that I can give them about your background, but if you don't mind, kind of share a little bit about your background and your journey to being a keynote speaker, and the folks that you focus on with your message.
Well, I'll be honest with you, my spotlight or my opportunity in the public, I started out with music. That was my all in all. I wanted to sing and perform, and I did. My family comes from music, from church, and my first opportunity for any platform was first doing poems and recitals and stuff, of course, like many of us as children. But I began to sing and get opportunities to join small groups, and eventually I got a lead with the choir, and that really opened me up because I was always excited, because the days that I grew up, I was akin to, Motown and, certain dynamic lead vocalists that I saw around, and it made me want to do what they were doing, especially knowing my family came from that side of the entertainment world. And I finally got a chance to do that. I had a band eventually, went on to do track dates, but what I didn't know was that because I was enjoying that lifestyle so much, what I was really doing was setting myself up for default and for failure. But I didn't realize it, Rome, because I was doing every drug you could think of. I mean, cocaine, marijuana, barbiturates, hallucinogenics, everything. And to me, it was just what we did. I didn't realize that it was creating a problem. And I was actually beginning to bury myself alive, man. And, I think I probably went on that run for about 25 years before I had a chance to really see who I was, how I was, and even attempt to make the first shift to become the person that sits before you today. There's so much that I could share, but I don't want to over, and I'll let you pull it out of me and I'll share accordingly.
Well, on that same line, I mean, there's people out there, I mean, and you start in a place where you've had challenges, you had a larger vision of what you wanted to accomplish, but unbeknownst to yourself, you kind of set up obstacles for yourself. I mean, to someone who's out there and who kind of taken that wrong turn, or who has put themselves in a position where they kind of feel like they're behind the eight ball and they don't have, opportunity, or they don't have the strength to kind of pull through. I mean, what was it during those times that helped you turn the corner, or to get a sense of self-awareness of where you were and what you needed to do in order to get to even create a vision of a larger sense of self and what's possible for you in the world? What was it that
that's an easy question, even though I didn't see it, because you will be able to relate to it. My children were the exact thing. Those people, those little minds, those little brains and bodies, they were the reason why I was able to successfully make that shift. I remember as a kid, when they were kids, I should say, we'd run around the house anytime their mother wasn't home, and we played tag. So I was the fun dad, right? Can't get me, jumping over the top of the couch. And as soon as their mom would come home, I'd be like, oh, shh, don't say nothing, right? So what happened was, it was a Saturday morning, I remember specifically, and I looked into their eyes and it broke my heart, Rome, because I knew, I was like, you're a failure and you're messing up big time, and you're messing up these kids too. Now, at the time I had 3 kids, only 2 lived with me, but I knew I had ran my run, man. And I looked at their mom and I said, you know what? We can't do this anymore. And I knew that I had to do something. And I knew that with everything that was wrong, I was the major thing that was wrong. And, knowing that these innocent lives, they didn't ask to come here, but you look into a child's eyes, even a toddler at 2 and 3, you see the clarity in their eyes, the brightness, the sparkle, and I'm taking that from them. I could not, but I hated myself, man. I literally hated myself. And my dad had told me, if you can't look at yourself in the mirror, that's a problem. And I actually couldn't. I would look in the mirror and look away and shut my eyes. And, just now, even talking about it, I see myself that Saturday in the bathroom, and that was the beginning of the transition. So I give my children all the credit in the world for saving my life. If I had not had them, who knows where I would be now. And in having them, I was able to put the brakes on, with God's help, of course, and make that 180-degree shift, man. It was just, and that was the beginning of the challenge, honestly. It's funny. You would think 25 years, okay, that was it. There was still more to come.
I want to put a dime in the meter and pause and talk about something that Sir Charles just talked about, around, and through. When we're trying to make a transition, when we're trying to get our feet on stable ground in order to lift ourselves out of a predicament, a tough situation or a hole that many times that we're responsible for putting ourselves in, the one thing you said that resonated all through me, Sir Charles, is at some point you have to realize that it's not about you.
Absolutely.
When it's about us, I'm cool with my stuff, right? I can say it. I can own the fact that I made some mistakes. I can own the fact that, okay, maybe this is my fate because of decisions that I made. But when you're talking about creating a larger vision of yourself and what's possible for you, what really undergirds that strength and that sense of self-efficacy is when you have a focus that's not about you. So, Charles, for you, it was your children,
Yeah.
something larger than you. How can someone out there identify or start to put their focus on something that's larger to them? And better yet, what does that do internally for us in terms of a shift in our energy and a shift in our strength to do something that we may have ordinarily not have done?
I'll tell you, Rome, that's a great question. And the truth of the matter is, take a smaller, less important issue. Let's say you got a headache or you bump your toe in the morning getting out of bed, whatever. And this is a test for those who are listening this in real time and in the replay. This is a test. If you bump your toe, stump your toe, right, or you got a headache, think about what you can do to get rid of that headache, right? And you're going to still be thinking about, oh, my head hurts or my toe is killing me. But if you focus on, wow, let me prepare breakfast for my wife, or wow, you know what, let me get the kids' clothes ready, or, you know, anything that's not about you in any shape, form, or fashion, what you're going to realize is that your focus on stumping your toe, your focus on your headache really won't be prominent. You will have a brand new focus because of what you're doing instead of thinking about the pain. And that's the same thing with much larger issues, much more important issues. When you sometimes focus on, yeah, I don't have enough money. Oh man, let me help this guy out over here. I'll throw $1 in his change box. Your focus on the fact that you don't have money doesn't seem to become a major concern. What becomes a major concern is that your heart turns into a heart of giving. And when you give, your problems seem a lot more smaller or not as important. And that's real. A lot of people don't realize it, but if you've ever experienced having a problem and you realize that in the midst of your problem, you help someone else, when you shift back to your problem, it's like, I'll figure it out. It doesn't seem to be as important. So in the lives of my children, and come on, I was at a low spot. I'm talking about a drug addict. Now, when you say substance abuser, that sounds clinical and nice. I was a drug addict. Now, I didn't hit nobody in the head, but I looked apart, withdrawn, light, skinny, clothes too big for me, profusely sweating constantly. I mean, it was just horrific. And when I look at pictures of me now, sometimes I have pictures of myself as a reminder, me holding my children in those dark days. And I look at myself, I'm like, damn, what was I thinking? And I wasn't thinking. I don't know a drug addict anywhere in the world that makes good decisions. So as it relates to your life, whatever you're going through, I don't know. If it's finances, if it's a job, a career shift, the point is, don't just let that be your sole focus. Focus on other things because it is mindset. Focus on, maybe again, your wife, your children, maybe you're a family member, maybe even a close friend. You take some of the weight off of you, and I'm almost 100% sure God will provide some answers for you. You just don't know where it's going to come from, whether it's going to be through another person, through a sign on television, a sign on the side of a bus as it goes by, or maybe even an inbox message. Trust me when I say trust me. I've been there and I lived through it. Mindset is the key to all of our answers.
Yeah. So Charles, I'm telling you, brother. I mean, we could talk a long time about some of these things because the questions are just in my mind as you're talking. But so you were able to overcome this battle that you were fighting. You had a larger sense of purpose, right? So what's the mindset that not only allows you to formulate another vision of self, but to then formulate bigger ideas, because you have that background, and there's a tendency for some folks to feel that because I've gone down this path, I have failed, and they identify with being a failure, or they have been a drug addict and they still identify with being that person because some people around them who knew them won't allow them to grow from that point. So what was it with you that allowed you to kind of shift, and not only when you started to make that walk, to even reach larger goals and larger accomplishments?
You know, I read somewhere in the book that says, "Let he without sin cast the first stone." And in reading that, it provided a bit of comfort because it let me know that no matter how bad I am or bad I was or things I've done, there's always another day and another way to change your circumstances. And nothing can be done without sacrifice, sacrificing time, sacrificing resources, sacrificing fun, if you will. And I'll be very transparent with you. I enjoy getting high. I really did. In fact, I would still do it today if I didn't know the results of the consequences. And I do know the results of the consequences. So it's not an option. But the activities, the fellowship, to hang out with friends and, laugh and doing these different things, the fact that they're not healthy things also makes it no longer an option. But I enjoyed it at that moment. So you have to be willing to give up something to get something. There's another phrase that says, you can't keep it if you're not willing to give it away. And what I gave away was what I called fun then. What I gave away was the time. What I gave away was the unknowing or not knowing. What I gave away was not wasting more money, more revenue. What I gave away was my heart because of the love of my children, knowing that that wasn't how I was raised per se, and that now I have a choice to make. I can either be a part of the problem or part of the solution. And you gotta sacrifice. You cannot get anything that you truly want without sacrificing. I don't care if it's personal, professional, social, or recreational. Just think about a game. Sometimes you gotta be fouled. Sometimes you gotta let the opponent get the advantage so they think they're gonna win the game, and you pull that secondary move, that audible, whatever it may be, and they don't see it coming. It's gotta be a sacrifice made in order for you to gain the advantage for your own benefit.
Yeah. Welcome, Facebook. For those of you who are just joining in, we're talking to Sir Charles Carey out of Washington, D.C. He is an author, speaker, and you know what? He's been sharing with us about his background because our topic today is how to master your mindset in tumultuous times. And we've been talking about your background of struggling with drug abuse. And
yes,
man, let me just tell you, if y'all just joining in, he's putting it down. You're talking about somebody who's keeping it 100, keeping it real. Sir Charles, I honor you for your candor. You just got through talking about, how you kind of lifted yourself out of the struggle, that you kind of started down the path. And like I said, man, your candor is just dope, man. You said you enjoyed it.
yeah.
So, but you got over it. You got over it, and you enter a season of life where you hear 3 words that no one wants to hear.
Right.
You have cancer.
Yeah.
How what does that do mentally when you hear those words, even after the struggles that you've had prior to that moment?
Now, I'll say this again, Rome. Again, that's another great question, because for those that are watching this live or those that see this in the replay, trust me when I tell you, I am not trying to preach to anyone. But when I thought my life was renewed, restored, I got myself together, quote unquote. I'm a new man, right? Get married, and I move um, out of state, leaving leaving actually all my children, leaving all my children behind, all three of them, and I starting a new life, and I go to the doctor one day, and he tells me that we think you've got cancer. God had to be on my side. I mean, he was always there anyway, because I'm sure most people, if they hear those words for the very first time in the confines of a doctor's office, you're liable to freak out. And I don't mean going crazy with your behavior. I mean internally, the worry, the stress, the heartache, the disappointment. I mean, all those emotions rushing at you because you're being told something or you're hearing something for the very first time and you don't know how to take it. But what did I do? I must be weird, Rome. I must be weird, because the moment the doctor said the words out of his mouth, maybe a second, maybe 2 second stops, I said, I don't receive that. So what are my options? And he was astonished. He's like, I guess he knows what he knows, but I also know what I know. And you see, mindset is not just, thinking structured and thinking this particular way. It's even better, stronger, more fortified when it's equipped with faith and belief. See, when you have faith and belief, your mindset is unbreakable. It can be unbreakable. And I must have had an unbreakable mindset as I think I do today, because those words did not penetrate me. Soon as he said it, I refused it. And I said, well, what are my options? He said, well, you can get a second opinion at Johns Hopkins. I said, okay, fine. And I know he was disappointed because I didn't just take his word. In fact, I'll even push the envelope a little further. I said to him, I had an African doctor, I says, why aren't you telling me what you do in Africa? Because all medicine is a simulation or replication of what nature does. Why aren't you telling me about what you do, or your folks do? And you know what he said? Well, I said, never mind. You came here for your opportunity. You got it. It's okay. Let me take advantage of that second option. And I went to Johns Hopkins, and they asked me a whole battery of questions. And the only thing, honestly, that I was suffering from was fatigue. And they said, well, let's wait and see. I said, cool. I didn't trust them. Honestly, I really do not trust American medicine as much as African, Asian, or Indian medicine. Now, I have never had African, Asian, or Indian medicine, but knowing that those are the original that's the original foundation of the world, that part of our civilization, I said, I'd rather take it from the source. That's my mindset. And what happened was I went back to Johns Hopkins after 3 years. It was supposed to be in 6 months. I waited 3 years, and the cancer spread throughout my body. After the cancer spread throughout my body, I asked, okay, tell me what the symptoms are. Tell me how this chemo works. They told me, long story short, I got the chemo for about, I think it was about, maybe, was it 6 months? I don't know. Several treatments. I mean, there were several months, and the cancer went away until 8 years later, it came back even stronger. I mean, this thing, I don't want to bore your audience, Rome, but this thing is just crazy. It came back coupled with jaundice. I was literally knocking at death's door when I got a phone call from my doctor on my way to the movies. He says, I need you to go to the hospital right now. I'm like, why? He said, just trust me. You've got to go to the hospital right now. So I did. And round two, I went to, I think it was Georgetown University, and they saw me. They took me in intensive care and sent me home and brought me back, and they gave me bendamustine, they gave me Rituxan. Somebody's really trying to get in touch with me. I don't know how important this is, but
that's how you know this is live.
Well, this is more important right now as far as I'm concerned. But but I had all these treatments, I had all this chemo, all this stuff in my body, and that's when I changed everything. Now it's been about 2011. That was the second time. It's been 9 years. I've refrained from eating red meat and chicken. I'm just really trying to be the best version, health-wise, of myself. So I am truly grateful, not only for you, Rome, giving me this opportunity to share with your audience, but I'm truly grateful that I have this story to tell because I understand the fear. I understand the pain that people endure when they're dealing with something and they feel they have no one to talk to. They have no one that's gone through what they've gone through. They have no one to share and comfort them. So if I can help one person, then I will feel that this is very worthwhile because it's not about me, as you said earlier, Rome. It's about what can you do with this life that benefits others.
Yeah. Sir Charles Carey, we've been talking about, how you've gone through the challenges that you have and been able to master a mindset. And we see behind you the result of that mindset mastery and the result of going through the wilderness and coming out with your faith intact and stronger. We see the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Man of the Year.
Yeah, I was honored.
The books, first of all, I know that one of your books, and you've written multiple books, but the book that I've read and most engaged with is Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. Tell us about what inspired you to write your stories, your books, and what your content focuses on for the audiences that you go speak to.
Okay. Well, honestly, I've written in 4 genres. I'm grateful. I didn't plan on, first of all, I never planned on being an author, never. But I wrote my first book, which I don't even talk about anymore because my mentor at the time, Dr. Willie Jolly, said, listen, to be a credible speaker, you need to have something that people could take home with them. You need to have been published. So I wrote a book called Poetic Expressions, and it was really very well liked. And I was traveling the whole speaking, spoken word circuit for a while. But after that, he told me, he said, listen, you've gone through a lot. Cancer, you're singing, you're speaking, you're in movies, you're doing all this stuff. You need to tell your story. So I wrote this book called Courage Facing Mortality. Cancer wasn't my only obstacle. And it became an Amazon bestseller. So I was very grateful to my mentor for telling me that. But Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, a mutual friend of yours and mine, Mr. Delatoro McNeil II, he was having this reality show called The Keynote. And he said, would you like to be on the show? And I said, yes. He said, you got to write a book. I said, I already got one. I got it covered. He says, nah, everyone's writing a book. So I wrote this book, Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, because it dealt with, it was really my first book on self-development. It dealt with and deals with mindset. And I wrote it from an interactive perspective. I wanted the reader to not just read it, to be engaged with the book. And I think this is the format that fits me. All of my books are interactive, so they get a chance to answer very poignant questions about themselves, about their activity. They need to address things like risk, fear, understand mistakes, understand the need of acceptance. All of these topics are very real that we deal with, but we very rarely discuss. So if you can answer these questions, you can use Radiate the Brain and Change the Game as your own personal resource. And that resource, I think, will provide you some of the answers you need so that you can get out your way. Because one thing that people say a lot, I never knew that. Nobody ever told me that. I never thought of that. I never heard that before, and sometimes there are excuses and sometimes there are reasons. But if I eliminate all of that, reasons or excuses, now you have a clear path to your goal and becoming the best version of you. And as you see, Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. What's so hard about being you? This is a real hot one right now. Aligned by design, and then after the diagnosis. What's so hard about being you? Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. So just like its predecessor, you have to learn how to get out of your own way so that you can get what you want in life.
Yeah. When you're going through something, and there's so many things that the world is dealing with, right? There's the COVID-19 pandemic. For people of color, it's the racism pandemic.
Yeah.
But in reality, in today that is multiplied based on who you are. But in a normal day, most people have struggles that they're only going through, or at least they feel they're only going through, right? For some, it's a personal battle with cancer, and as they go throughout their day, no one knows that they're struggling, but they feel the weight of the world is on them. For
Right.
some people, it is racism. There are people of color who work in organizations where they're the only person who look like them around, and even though the news of the day weighs heavy on them, it sits in the pit of their stomach, they still have to show up and be excellent. They still have to show up and produce. What are some of the keys to being focused and also productive when you're going through tumultuous times?
You know, it doesn't feel good when you're in that position, but it's what I'm going to say sounds probably kind of counterproductive, but actually it's an asset. You know, when you're the one that's behind the eight ball, everything is coming at you. You can be sure it's for a couple of reasons. Now, some of us, we do put ourselves in that position. I get that. And you may not be able to use it, those people that fit that mode. But a lot of times, people that give you a hard time, it's because they want to be like you. It's because something about you attracts them and they don't have it. So if you can take solace in knowing that, yeah, I know, no problem, sure, okay, yeah, whatever you say. You know, and that's difficult for some of us because everyone's character and temperament is different. Some of us can only be pushed, but so far. But the key thing is to know what's the big picture. You know, what is most important? Is it more important that you stay there and you stay cool, calm, and collected so that you can get your paycheck? Or is it more important that you flick off and go off on this person? Now, you already know you need your resources, you need your money, you need your finances to be intact. So it doesn't behoove you to allow them to push you to a point that you lose your cool, lose your livelihood. So the thing is, really, it's really about mindset. You know, knowing who you are is key. I mean, it's at an elementary level, it's key, meaning that even if you're not using your skills, your God-given skills, but knowing that you have them, knowing that it's a part of how you were made, that's your secret weapon. I call it your sweet spot. The thing is, you want to capitalize on your sweet spot. I was just talking about it earlier today in a video. You know, if you can use that thing that God has given you to monetize and supplement your income, bam, you're a winner. If you can use that same thing just for a release, bam, you're a winner because you still have something to offer that many other people don't have. So your secret weapon, you know, your secret sauce, your sweet spot, whatever you want to call it, take advantage of it. I encourage people to discover it, which is what the books are really about. It's really about, you know, knowing who you are and capitalizing on that brilliance, that genius. And if you can capitalize on that brilliance and that genius, you're going to shine. People are going to look at you differently, not realizing that, why does this dude so, you know, like he walking on the clouds or like he got it like that. It's because he got it like that. And he may be walking on the clouds. Right. You just don't know what he got.
Right. Yeah, the one thing I talk about in my books and in my conferences is star power.
Yeah.
Star power, inner ability to create more of what you want by simply using more of what you already have. The challenge there is many times our focus is external on how things are different for us, you know, the obstacles in our way. But in what you said is in knowing who you are, we have to turn that focus on the inside and have a greater appreciation for who you are, for your path in life, because I sincerely believe, and your testimony in your discussion here today has shown us that what happens to you many times must happen to you to bring forth the story or the gifts that God intends for you to bless the world with. I believe that every single one of us have 10 different fingerprints that we were born with. And how unique is that? 10 different fingers in our hands. Some people don't have 10 fingers, but however many fingers you got, your fingerprints are unique to you. And you can travel the world, touch a dish, a cup, a piece of paper, something back when we could travel the world and touch things. But your fingerprint can be traced all the way back to you. And that's because you were meant to make your mark in this world.
Absolutely.
When we're talking about radiate the brain, change the game, mindset mastery, we're almost at the top of the hour, but I wanted to ask you, in your resources, how can people connect with you? What resources for those who are struggling with the current climate that's happening, or they find themselves in a position where they have to reinvent themselves? Where can they follow you, and what resources do you have for them in order to kind of build that vision and pour into their lives?
Well, I am on most of your major social media platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Everything is the platform / Sir Charles Carey. And Carey is spelled Cary. So whatever platform / SirCharlesCary. And as far as the resources, you can get all these resources all available on my website, which is sircharlescarryinc.com. Or now they have their own home. They live at wordsmithspeakersalliance.com. And you get all 4 of these books for the price of 3, believe it or not. And if you act now, I'll probably be throwing in an audio program. And then we also have, of course, Courage Facing Mortality. Cancer wasn't my only obstacle, with the audio program and the documentary, which shows you step by step, what did I do when the doctor said, we feel that you have cancer and we like to start to administer treatment. I have documented the whole thing from the moment they told me to the hospital visits, the treatment. Oh man, it was just amazing. And I don't know what made me pick up a camera and start filming, but I'm glad I did, because that's a part of my history and part of my legacy that they can be proud of. My kids can be proud of, that I was able to overcome. And it shows them there's nothing you can't overcome when you put your mind to it and God's working through it. So I'm grateful for all that I do. So again, Wordsmith, literally wordsmithspeakersalliance.com, or you go to my main site, sircharlescarryinc.com. And I'll be more than glad to get these resources to you quick, fast, and a hurry.
We've been talking to Sir Charles Carey from Washington, D.C., author, speaker, and 2-time cancer survivor. And for those of you who are just joined in on Facebook, or excuse me, LinkedIn, or on YouTube, eventually this video will be posted all there. Please follow me at Rome Madison. You go to romemadison.com, sign up for my distribution list, and you can connect with me on all of my social media platforms. This content will be produced there. Sir Charles Carey, thank you for joining us. And just for those who just joined, I see some folks just joined on YouTube. Why is the time now? We've been talking about mindset mastery in tumultuous times, but for those who this topic is resonating with, can you give them a message to go on as to why now is the time to make the change that they want to see to create the future that they have in mind for themselves?
Sure, I think, it's normal for people to go, oh no, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We better just hope and pray. And yeah, do that, hope and pray. However, you have to take some action also. Faith without works, we all know the answer to that, right? So why do I say now is a good time? Well, now is a good time for this reason. You may not be a millionaire, obviously. You may not be a billionaire. I get it. But you have to learn the rules of engagement. If you have a business, whatever type it may be, home-based, brick and mortar, if you have a business, you're entitled to all the things that business owners are entitled to. Whether you like the way the country is being run or not, you want to position yourself to take advantage of as much as you can. Expenses and all that. I'm not an accountant, but expenses and all the write-offs, and you will see when you get your tax returns, or you will see the benefits of being a business owner versus just an everyday earner, how you can take advantage of that opportunity. But this is the key. Don't do something just for the sake of doing it. Try to find something that's in your sweet spot. Whatever your talent is, find something there. Because if you don't find something in your sweet spot, you're going to give up on it. More than likely, you're going to quit, and you're not going to stay plugged in. You must stay plugged into whatever you do so that it can be true. Radiate the brain and change the game.
My man, Charles Carey, thank you for joining us and pouring out your wisdom, your knowledge, and your realness on Superstar Academy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. You bet. Keep it locked. Follow me at Rome Madison on all social media platforms and look out for the replay and go back over this because there's so many great nuggets that Sir Charles has laid out for you to help you master your mindset in tumultuous times. I'm Rome Madison. I got wisdom for your mind, motivation for that behind. We'll check you.